Okay, there are ongoing issues at the public library in Mount Vernon. I think we were all hoping to put it behind us, but it doesn't appear to be in the cards, at least not right now. Let me share my screen. So this video was prompted by a couple of videos posted by the employees of the Mount Vernon Public Library to the Civil Service Employees Association of the Mount Vernon Public Library. The first video is the executive session of the May 30th Board of Trustees meeting. I guess they inadvertently left the feed on when they went into the Zoom feed on when they went into executive session, and an employee made a video recording of that and posted that. So we're going to get a look at what goes on in the executive session. And the second one was a video they posted of, I guess it was a campaign video that Trustee Maribel put up this spring when she was trying to get reelected to the Board of Trustees. 3 issues. 1, violation of the New York State Open Meetings Law. 2, Trustee Maribel's use of offensive language to describe a library employee during the executive session. 3, the campaign video itself. So let's go and look at some video. First, we're going to hear from Jonathan Davis regarding the reason given to the public to go into executive session.
Okay. Now, we went to executive session under the pretense of discussing bylaws.
So he says, we went into executive session under the pretense of discussing bylaws. Next, he's going to specifically ask, are we going to discuss the bylaws? So we'll hear him ask that question, and then we'll hear Shanice Coleman, who is the current president of the Board of Trustees, flat out say no. So let's listen.
Well, are we going to discuss the bylaws?
No, that's going to be done in our next work session.
Just listen to that one more time. You'll hear Jonathan Davis say, are we going to discuss the bylaws? And Trustee Coleman says no.
We're just discussing.
Well, are we going to discuss the bylaws?
No, that's going to be done in our next work session.
Now we'll hear Trustee Maribel refer to a library employee with a disability as deaf and dumb.
Is she advocating for us to terminate?
Okay, that's what I couldn't understand. Deaf and dumb.
Okay, deaf and dumb. You'll see, I'll do it one more time where she points to her ear as she's saying deaf and dumb.
Advocating for us to terminate.
Okay, that's what I couldn't understand. Deaf and dumb.
Okay. And then again, a few seconds later,
she advocated for us to fire the deaf and dumb lady.
Of course, the irony is that Trustee Maribel is expressing concern that one employee wants to fire an employee with a disability. And presumably, Trustee Maribel thinks that that's a bad idea because the person is disabled, and it could potentially open them up, if it's not done carefully, to accusations that they're discriminating against or firing the employee because they have a disability. And it's ironic because she's describing it all by using deeply offensive language about a person with a disability. All right, now we're at the campaign video that was released this spring. Here she's talking about the current executive director, Mr. Davis. Let's listen.
It would be more to his benefit for the doors of that library to get shut down at our Mount Vernon Public. It would be more to his benefit for our doors to be shut down, in contrast to us sending him off on the carpet.
Next, she's going to talk about he's so dishonest that she tape records. She had no choice but to tape record conversations with him.
The dishonesty. What the dishonesty was to the point where you basically had no choice but to tape every conversation with the gentleman.
Okay, and then the last thing is the grand conspiracy that ties into the executive director of the Westchester Library System.
And how it all plays in to the big conspiracy that has been spearheaded by the executive director of the Westchester Library System, a gentleman by the name of Terry Kirchner. Remember that name because it's going to keep popping up within the next couple of weeks.
I don't recall it popping up in any time. So, all right. So we saw Trustee Davis, heard Trustee Davis say we went into executive session under the pretense of discussing bylaws. Then he asked flat out, are we going to discuss the bylaws? And then Trustee Coleman answers, no, that's going to be done at our next work session. Since the work session is public, we know that even if they had told the public they were going into executive session to discuss bylaws, it would not have been a legitimate reason to go into executive session. And here, they didn't even discuss the bylaws. They really just gossiped about employees, or from what I could tell, that's what it seemed like they were doing. So just so everybody knows, there are a limited number of reasons for entering executive session. The people we elect to office seem to routinely flout this, not just here in Mount Vernon, but everywhere. It just seems like executive session is used for elected officials to go and, I don't know, strategize outside of the view of the public to get their ducks in a row. I don't really know what they're doing. This is the list. This right here comes from Public Officers Law, Article 7, Section 105. This was updated. You can get this by going to the state of New York. It's updated in 523. A through H, these are your reasons. There are no others. I put off for this particular executive session, it wasn't any of these things. Possibly had they said they were going into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person, matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person, they would have been okay. The way in which they ended up discussing an employee is problematic, but had they said that, they probably would have been okay, because that is discussing things like that is on the list if it's a sensitive matter of an employee, but they didn't do that. So clearly this was a bogus executive session. It should not have taken place. The second thing, the use of offensive language to describe an employee. We heard Trustee Maribel refer to a library employee as deaf and dumb. She pointed to her ear. And then a few seconds later, she refers to that deaf and dumb lady. And, the irony of this is that Trustee Maribel seemed to be concerned about the suggestion made by an employee to terminate this employee with a disability. She seemed to recognize that it's potentially problematic if the reason for firing the employee was because they had a disability, but that she's talking about it using a deeply offensive term. And then the third thing, this campaign video where we hear then candidate Maribel talking about the current library director, saying he'd be better for him if the library shut down as opposed to being terminated. Presumably, the idea is that he would engage in practices to sabotage the operations of the library, I guess, is what she's trying to claim. She also notes that he's so dishonest that she tape records everything. And then third, the grand conspiracy with the executive director of the Westchester Library System, and that it's gonna, there's gonna be a great, unveiling of this enormous conspiracy here that she sees. I guess the thing that worries me about this is either way, if it's true, if this is all true, if everything she's saying is true, it's bad. It means that the current executive director of the Mount Vernon Public Library, if it's true, if what she's saying is true, it means that he doesn't have the best interest of the library at heart. He would be actively looking to undermine the operations of the library because that would serve his interests if what Ms. Marable is saying is true. And what's more, there's a big conspiracy that ties in the head of the Westchester Library System. There's a grand scheme to undermine, I don't know what. We didn't get any particular evidence. We just got a lot of talk about it. So if it's all true, it's bad. But if it's not true, it feels like it opens us up to serious problems. You know, this is a sitting board of trustee. They were in the room in that video I showed you. I'm going to stop this screen. They were both in that executive session. They were both there. So if not, it seems like that video, should something go wrong with the executive director's tenure, or if the executive director was like, I'm uncomfortable, it just seems like it opens us up. Either way, it's not good either way. So watch the videos in their entirety. I'm a little bit depressed about this, what's going on there. You know, the whole thing is very, very troubling.